Today is the big day in the after hours. We have the NVIDIA Q4 earnings, so the full fiscal year 2025 earnings for NVIDIA to look forward to. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot to consider in this one, and I think that we're going to have a big move in either direction based off of this. I'll share my numbers with you, my NVIDIA stock price prediction, my NVIDIA earnings projection for what I see coming our way, and the considerations that we have to make leading up to those earnings, and then certainly following those earnings, what exactly can fall out from there. And I will give an update once we get those numbers that come from NVIDIA in the after hours today. So I'll be watching that like a hawk to see what exactly could be coming our way. So let's put up the numbers and I'll share my thoughts with you on this for what to look at. So here the green and the yellow, this is from the previous quarter where you can see my estimation that I had and the actual results that we got from that. So for that, I did lowball it a little bit, seeing what we could potentially have from the low end of things, and they beat on that. And then what we got for quarter over quarter and year over year changes were actually pretty darn good numbers for the most part, with a little bit of hit to gross margin. However, when we look over to Q4, and this is why I kept those numbers around for this video, we go from almost 17% quarter over quarter change to 6.9% change, which causes us to get a little bit of chop with NVIDIA stock price and not necessarily go as bullish as we could have gone because of seeing that growth change, if you will, dropping down to about 7%. We actually want to hang up around 15+%, and honestly seeing an increase in growth would be even better. But watching that slowdown happen starts to put the demand questions into people's minds, and then also DeepSeek coming out with their innovations starts to be like, okay, well, do we need as much hardware as we have right now for NVIDIA, or do we put a pause here and make those engineering improvements? So what we're looking for is answering that demand question of, are NVIDIA's products and services still in just as high demand? Are we still seeing those same margins coming out for them that is causing these extraordinary results to come out? Now, mind you, I'm a long-term investor in NVIDIA. I have a long-term position that I continue to add to over time, and I don't think that this is the quarter where NVIDIA goes away, but it is a quarter where we are, in my opinion, this is one of the most contentious quarters that we've had in the past couple of years here for NVIDIA, the most nail-biting for certain that we have between the tariffs that are coming out, between what we see for the innovations that are there, for what we see across different companies for their AI services that they're doing. It starts to bring into question a lot of the returns on their revenues. And so what exactly is going on with that spend? Do they pause and figure things out for right now? And so we're looking to see also, I should mention, NVIDIA's supply side of things as well, and how able are they to deliver on the sales that they have? Are they able to still navigate the supply chains well? Is the demand still far outstripping the supply? We want to hear that this rampant growth is still going, not only this quarter, but into the next quarter and throughout full year 2025. So the fiscal year 2026 is looking also shiny and bright. And then we'll see if they give us longer term from there. So their guidance matters in a huge way where growth is involved. The earnings per share quarter over quarter expected growth for that is coming in at about 2%. That's based off of their guidance, and my price prediction that I have here, I should say my earnings projection, I have coming in just 2% above their guidance. So we'll see if we get that. And then what I have for gross margin, 75%. Don't be surprised if that gets hit a little bit, that it ends up coming closer to that 73% that they projected there. I have an increase in OPEX, so we'll see if they have less efficiency coming out from that, and I have them coming in at 86 cents per share versus their projection, their estimation of 83 cents, and the analyst average of 85 cents. So for NVIDIA, conservation might be the thing that really pans out. So if I actually go back up here, and if instead I say that they missed their guidance for by 2% instead of beating it by 2%, so we'll change that to 0.98 instead, then that actually drops us down to 82 cents, 36,750, and then it also puts us down below their earnings per share by a penny. So that would actually cause us to come in a lot more even with last quarter. We go from 81 cents to 82 cents instead of 81 to 83. So we'll see. There's a very narrow window for them to hit those revenue expectations. Now for NVIDIA, they tend to be on revenue and also tend to be on EPS. This quarter could absolutely be no exception. But again, we're not just looking for the growth for this coming quarter. We're also looking at those year over year changes where we had almost double in revenue gains, now that dropping down to about 70%, which is likely to happen over time as they start to lap over those incredible earnings shifts that we saw since the big AI movement. So moving on from there into full year numbers. So with that coming in 2% miss on the average expectation from NVIDIA, that puts me in line with them for $293 a share. Analysts estimate $295. That's a double and then a quarter more over what they had in EPS in the previous year. And then when you look at revenue, it's still doubling and then some for the revenue from the previous year from that as well. We're looking for that guidance for fiscal year 2026 that tells us that we're also going to have incredible growth in that revenue and hopefully leading to that incredible growth in EPS. Now, mind you, a lot of that depends on the margins that are experienced during that time, and tariffs could certainly infringe upon those margins, and that's one of the concerns that we have, and one of the reasons that we see some of the subdued price action from NVIDIA along with the market bias as well. So keeping that in mind, let's step out of that, and we're going to go over to this right here that I have for you. So this gets into my NVIDIA stock price prediction. If we miss on growth, we could be in this wide range down here. I'll talk about the yucky stuff first. So if we miss on growth, this thing, I think it's not quite what Elon said a couple years ago about the sledgehammer and souffle for Tesla stock price. But this is something that's not going to be too kind, at least in the near term for NVIDIA. If that shadow of doubt really starts to hit in a material way, then we could see a pretty darn significant drawdown in that price, $75 up to about $96 per share. If that miss on growth happens and then they project out that it's not going to be as much growth as they were expecting throughout the full year. So we'll see if they give us quarter guidance or if they give us full year guidance. And that certainly, we want to listen to the tone of that earnings call and see if it's a happy celebratory earnings call or if it's one where they sound like they have a lot of work to do and that it puts any sort of extra doubt onto the next year for being able to hit those growth metrics. Now, mind you, something that we want to listen for as well is any sort of foreshadowing for CES that comes out in March for the new products and services that could be announced there from NVIDIA as well. So we have this near-term catalyst of the earnings, but then we also have that next catalyst, which is that CES show coming up. And so we want to definitely wait and hear for that next innovation that's coming along from NVIDIA that's going to be that true step change in their performance for the company, performance for AI, and also really starts to feed into the demand side of things that allows them to upkeep these extremely good margins that they have going on right now with their products and services. If they do beat on growth, here's the happy stuff. If they do beat on growth significantly, then what we could see there is that 162 to 175, we'll call it. And so that would take excellent next quarter guidance. That would be like a celebration type of earnings call. So listen for that. That would be excitement over what is coming up next. And so we want to hear that and also listen to the questions that are being asked during the question and answer part of the earnings call in the way that Jensen or whoever it is answering those happens to answer those questions, because that could tell you a lot. So if it sounds like he is in a defensive sort of mode with the way that he's answering the questions, even that tone could have some sort of impact. So we're listening for those big revenue drivers and those big things that are going to keep the margins expanded over time. So for NVIDIA, there's still a lot to be excited about. There's still a lot to be bullish about, but then we also have the cautionary pieces of that. How are tariffs going to treat them? How are they going to navigate it? How are they doing with their supply chains? What is demand looking like as we get into this next quarter coming up? What exactly can we expect? Should we be excited about the next thing for NVIDIA? Should we be excited about that next earnings because they're just going to blow us out of the water? That guidance that they give on that press release, that's going to be scrutinized immediately, and the large institutions are going to have their own AI ways to interpret that with their Monte Carlo models that say what exactly they should expect to happen next. And you're going to see, in my opinion, we're probably going to see something pretty drastic one way or the other when the earnings come out. So to the downside of things, 75 to 96. To the upside of things, 162 to 175 is about the ranges that we could be looking for, not necessarily immediately following those earnings. It could be a descent over time if it's something that there's going to be doubt or that growth story gets disrupted in a negative way. If that growth story gets disrupted in a positive way, that we're actually hitting that next wave, that next catalyst, that next step forward, that's where we're really going to see those high prices come out. And I'm going to watch for the earnings to drop. I'm also going to listen to the earnings call. I'll take some notes on it. I'll give my commentary on that and talk about the direction that we could expect following those earnings to see if the immediate result is something that is going to continue or if that immediate result is something that is overblown, regardless of the direction. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Check out the link for the Patreon. Join me and my community members over in the Discord to see my buys and sells and my technicals, and also talk to me and my community members. Also, down in the description, find that link for StockMo Academy if you want to learn to do technical analysis like I do and do trading, use the bread recipe trading strategy like I use, like StockMo, who's a personal friend of mine, like he uses, and people signing up for that course get to learn how to do it, get to ask about the nuances in the learning community that's part of that technical analysis course, and you guys can get it cheaper by using the code word DOCTOR, DOCTOR, when you sign up. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning. We'll see you next video.